Richard Gladwell here from Sail World with Ryan Houston off Team Alvimedica. Ryan's one of the 3 New Zealanders in the race. How does it feel not having a New Zealand boat in the race?
It's a little bit disappointing. I would love to sail on a Kiwi boat in this race. I've always grown up watching Kiwi boats sail in this race. But other than that, to get the opportunity to do the race is pretty spectacular. And to be one of 3 Kiwis and have the reception we had last night, it was well worth it. Yeah.
How does this race compare on the sort of the racing side of it compared to the others you've done? I mean, to the outsider, it looks a lot more intense.
Yeah, I guess if I go back on my other 2 races, Delta and Sanya, I was an older generation boat, so we were sort of battling it out at the back. It's a completely different race for me this time. We were up there with the front runners, and yes, we're working quite a lot harder. We're not just relying on our boat to get us out of situations. It's more to do with the inches than most things. If it comes down to having 0.1 of a knot, the gains we're getting over 6 hours, maybe 1 mile, and that's a good gain. So yeah.
Because I think Dave mentioned that as well. With you're quite happy now with a gain of 1 mile and 3 sort of okay, whereas in previous races you'd have just thought, oh, that's nothing. Is that still the view?
Yeah, that is still the view. Like you might sail for I would say a week and gain 3 miles. And in terms of that's quite a significant gain over a week. In the last race, you saw people getting 10 miles every sked. But in saying that, all you need is one little cloud, a knot of difference pressure-wise, and that guy's gained that all back in 3 hours. You see boats maybe 3 or 4 miles apart running downwind, and they're touring and froing because there's more wind, and then there's more wind to leeward, and this AIS thing makes it pretty interesting.
So what happens with AIS? I mean, do you use it during the day, or because you should be able to see the guys?
Yeah, it's basically the old-fashioned sailing was you used a hand bearing compass and maybe a radar to get the range and bearing. Now we just use it like that. It gives us the range and bearing and their boat speed up to a radius of 10 miles, and we use it as long day and night. We even have it print out on our computer about an average speed over the 6 or 7 hours, so we can check in on how we're doing. We, as watch captain now, I've tried to slow less, not being so reliant on it. It's sort of you get into a good mode and then you have a look, and that guy's maybe doing a couple of knots faster than a couple of knots faster than you, and you're like, oh, we need to change something, and that sort of throws you off rather than sticking to your own game.
How sensitive are these boats to trim and that sort of thing, particularly when you've got something like AIS rattling along in the background telling you how you're doing relative to everyone else? Yeah,
I think they get in and out of their sweet spot quite nicely. You watch that over a period of time. Boats will, as some guys might be set up for a little bit more breeze, and some people might be a little bit lighter where they have their stack or how they have their sails trimmed, and it does make a big difference. If you're not in, any one design boat, we all know that if you're not in the mode quick enough, the guy behind you will catch or extend on you. So the mode changes compared to the old 70 are quite important. Yeah.
So what happens on these boats when you see someone coming up behind you? Is it like the Volvo 70 where you think, well, we know design-wise we're faster in this condition than they are, and you just either wave them through or wave them goodbye?
Yeah, it's actually horrible. You start to, you think, oh, well, we have the same hardware as them, what are we doing wrong, So you try and figure out what they're doing, and, we've been a little bit slower on this leg in some angles of sailing because we just haven't done it before, and I think we started off, we were bleeding half a mile every 6 hours, and then we finally started, adjusting our boat, and we ended up, holding even. That's the sort of thing that's happening.
So what are the mind games like below decks with, I mean, someone like Will's probably pretty intense about it.
Yeah, Will, he's not, he's interested in where they've positioned their boats and stuff like that, but he doesn't actually, rely on it too much. He's pretty confident and knows what he does. He does a lot of research before the start of legs, and he backs his knowledge, and it might be a little bit different with Charlie, who's a little bit less experienced. He likes to sort of follow the pack and do that sort of thing.
Because there's a tendency there to basically data watch rather than do it by eyeball, isn't there?
Yes, for sure. As people are, now it's coming out, a lot of tactical decisions are made on AIS, like, maybe in the last leg we should have tacked up with Brunel and the girls, but, we were with the top three boats, so you want to stay with the pack. You don't want to be sort of left behind.
What's coming up for you guys with the Southern Ocean? Everyone sort of tends to view that with a bit of trepidation, but from what you've seen so far with these boats, what do you think it's going to be like?
I've never been to the Southern Ocean. I'm fully looking forward to it. It's sort of, I think I've done every other leg in the Volvo apart from the Southern Ocean leg. We had Tony Muller up in Sanya giving us some coaching, and he said these boats could be quite nice with the lifting bow. They skip along quite nicely in the Southern Ocean. I think in terms of the structuralness of the boats, I think they should be fine. Obviously, they, as we all know, that we're going to push, and someone's going to push and brake, and then we're going to figure out what the speed limit is. But I'm thoroughly looking forward to actually giving these things a good run for their money.
What are the sort of speeds you're seeing like on these compared to the Volvo 70s?
Downwind, these boats would perform, they're sort of set up for going downwind more than upwind. They perform very well for like a 65-footer downwind. Reaching and running, then they're probably a little bit slower, but in general we're probably seeing 2% slower or 3% slower than a Volvo 70 in general. How I explained to someone, if wind speed was, the boat would do wind speed up to 20 knots, a Volvo 70 will probably do wind speed plus 5% most of the time until you get to 25 knots, and then the seaway sort of starts slowing you down.
What about in terms of redlining the boats? Do you feel that you can, that level's a lot higher than the Volvo 70 where you've got to back off, or not?
I think, no, it's exactly the same. You get to a point where you're like, if we keep going like this, something's going to break. And we haven't got to that level on this boat because obviously it's been quite a light race so far. But I guess in coming out of Cape Town we had a little bit of hard reaching, and it was like a Volvo 70. We didn't slow down, but you'd sort of you take it until you do break something, and then you sort of slow down. It's one of those things. Hopefully it's not major. Yeah.
Sort of finally back on the cricket. I mean, what happens on board? Do you get any news of what's happening at home and stuff like that? I mean, how do you follow it?
Yeah. So what happens is the Volvos, obviously we're not allowed any information about the race, so they send us on a website. It's called a BoatNet, and it has all the sporting reports. And we've been watching the cricket pretty intensely. Dave, I think, has been going on about the cricket for the last 2 weeks. He told us, 3 weeks, told us in Sanya that he was going to make the cricket. We told him he was joking, and he was only a couple of hours off. But no, as sportsmen, we like to know what's going on. So I think as the Cricket World Cup heats up, we'll watch it a bit more. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks very much, and all the best for the rest of the race.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.